Welcome to the Orthodontic Pearls podcast, where we share tips and tricks to better your clinic, business, and life. And now your hosts of the podcast, Drs. Chris Teeters, Brian Anderson, and Andy Sarpadar.
Welcome back to the Orthodontic Pearls podcast. With me, as always, are my co-hosts, Brian Anderson and Chris Teeters. And with us today, we have Dr. Ben Fishbein out of Pensacola, Florida. How are you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Well, it's been a pleasure. We've had a lot of really interesting late night conversations around the meetings over the years. I'm looking forward to rehashing some of those details here. But first off, Brian, that beard has gotten a little unruly. Are you going for a new look here? It used to be Tom Selleck. Now I think you're looking more like Grizzly Adams.
Yeah, I haven't shaved in like 3 days. And this morning, Diana was like, "Hey, are you growing the beard?" I'm like, "Well, not really intentionally. I just haven't shaved." And she said, "Well, maybe you should." So could go either way at this point. But hey, Andy, I got to compliment you, man.
Yeah.
Your intro, the welcome back to Orthodontic Pearl, that's getting good, man.
Thanks, man. It's maybe it's time to share that one a little bit, because I feel like your deep voice would really resonate, wake people up in the morning. But
welcome back to Orthodontic Pearls podcast. I'll do it one time.
Same way you open the meeting. It's perfect.
And Chris, well, we have an actual vocalist over here, Chris. Maybe we should give him a crack at that one of these times too. How are you doing today, Chris?
Oh, doing good. Funny enough, I had a throat injury when you speak about being a vocalist and all that, where I was helping my son get up on a surfboard. He's 6 and it slipped out from under his feet and hit me right in the throat, and I heard a crack and couldn't speak afterwards. So it was a little freaking me out. So first of all, if you're out there helping a little kid on a surfboard, be careful of your neck and your teeth. I guess it could have been my teeth, but fortunately no fracture, just a hemorrhage of the vocal cords. And I had to, work in the clinic for 2 weeks without speaking very much, which was a challenge for the team. And I had like little notes like, "Hey, I hurt myself, but I promise my diagnostic skills are fine." And, so we got through it. But definitely, have fun, but make sure you are safe out there.
You know what's going to happen is from now on, when Chris takes people out on the boat, he's going to make them wear the thyroid collar when they go.
I'll grab one from the clinic.
He's going to be one of those moms that's like, no, you must wear the thyroid collar when you're on the surfboard.
That's right.
Anyway, we're not here to talk thyroid collars. We're here to hear about Ben's story. So, Ben, I want to say, first of all, we met years ago at the Orthodontic Exchange Study Club, I think it was. And I think we graduated around the same time too. I was 2013. When did you graduate?
2012. Yeah,
2012. Okay. Yeah, I knew you were you were a little bit ahead of me, but not as much as you would have thought, given the practice size you already were. Back then, a measly 5 or 6 practices in Pensacola. Is that about right?
We started off with 1 or 2, and then we basically opened a practice a year for the next 6-7 years. So we got up to so just depending on what it was.
So I think by the time we were in the study club together, that's about right. I knew you had a few locations by that point, but started off with 2, you said. Mm-hmm. So, and how big were those practices when you first started off?
Tiny. I mean, both of them together were significantly less than $1 million production, and those grew, and as those grew, I opened up more. Just kind of took what was working and replicated it.
And I mean, today you have 12 SmileDocs affiliated locations producing more than 30 million annually, which is quite impressive. And today you actually serve as the clinical director of de novos for SmileDocs. But I want to hear a little bit more about what went into that initial decision. So first of all, how did you land on Pensacola, Florida? Is there a family connection there? Did you just do demographics research and that made the most sense? What brought you there and what drew you to these practices to get your foot in the door?
Yeah, when I moved to Pensacola, I knew one person here, which is now my wife. So I moved down because of her. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah, okay. When I was in residency, I met her, and we had looked at places in Baltimore. We were going to go there to practice. And then, she brought me down to Pensacola. I liked it. I could see she was happy there. And, what do they say? Like, happy wife, happy life. I don't know if that's true, but it seemed to work for me. Went around, couldn't get a job. Finally found a place that, it no longer exists because I ended up buying it later on. But I worked at tons of locations all over Florida. worked there for about a year, and then I had met every orthodontist in the area, and one of the orthodontists called me and said, hey, like I'm sick, do you still interested in coming in? And I was like, sure. Bought that practice, again, very small practice, and then took it from there.
Very cool. So it was more sort of a serendipity. I mean, getting to Pensacola, that was your wife's connection, which I think some of us can relate to. That's how I ended up in Phoenix. Chris, I think that's how you ended up here as well. So that makes a lot of sense. And then it was just sort of serendipity. You did the networking, you met the doctors in the area, and one of them happened to be on his way out, and the rest is history, so to speak. So from there, what motivated you to grow this organization? Why not just stick with your initial 2 locations and make those as big as you possibly can? Why all the expansion?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think those things are mutually exclusive, right? So people are like, oh, don't open more, like focus on focus on growing the one you have. Like, I'm still trying to grow the core locations, like the ones that were not opening up. And I've got, 2 more offices opening up, one this year, one at, beginning of next year. So yeah, those things aren't mutually exclusive. Now, that being said, I think like the most profitable practice type you can have is the one doctor, in terms of like a percentage of profitability, is that one doctor, one office practice. If you can be busy enough to do that, I think for me personally, it was like I saw opportunities in some of these areas of where I thought we could do really well with our model. And for me, like one of my I guess you could say it's a flaw of mine, but it's hard for me to pass up on opportunities. Although I'm working on it, where I'm like, what, I don't need that. Like, let me spend more time with my kids. But certainly, at that time when before I had kids and I was young and hungry, I was like, this is a great spot. Like, I know we're going to do well here. Like, I can't pass it up. Like, let's go. And yeah, every de novo we've opened up has been a win for us.
Ben, I want to ask you, what do you look for in an opportunity? Like, what makes something a great opportunity versus something that should be passed on?
I mean, there's so many factors. Like now, as a clinical director of de novos for small doctors, like it's actually organized. Like we actually like do like real due diligence, where we're looking at all the orthodontists in the area, the like actual due diligence. Yeah. Like before, when it was me, I was like, oh, like I like this spot. Like it feels good, And to be honest with you, I still like think that's valuable, right? I think like we can all trust I always trust my gut more than I trust like a demographic report, because I think like demographic reports can be BS or outdated or not accurate. Like I am very demographic reports. And listen, I use dentographics quite a bit, but I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of all stats, demographic reports, et cetera. So, now the diligence we do, like we're looking at the dentist, we're looking at the orthodontist in the area, we're looking at the population, under 18, we're looking at the economics of the area, we're looking at, what the average house is worth, we're looking at, what other businesses are there. So there's, and I could go on for another, 10 or 20 factors, but, the other part is we look at the people, like, so who's going to be the doctor who's going to open in that area? Yeah. It's going to make a huge difference, difference.
I think that there's a lot of validity to that. A lot of the guys that we know who have had massive success, it's some sort of hometown advantage, or they have a cultural connection to the community. Dovey Prero is an example. Chris Feldman is another one, who have just these really strong cultural connections to their community, and that has allowed them to grow in otherwise competitive areas. So you actually are matching doctors to the location. Does that become a challenge with a non-equity sharing doctor who could leave at any time?
Well, we're not exactly matching the doctor to the location. Typically, what will happen is a equity owning doctor, like such as myself, like I'll use myself as an example, will reach out to our de novo team and say like, hey, I'd like to open here. Like, here's why. Here's the days I can give it. Here's my plan. How many days per week? How I'm going to leverage my team. And then, there's a committee that I'm part of that help analyze that decision and looking at all the factors that I mentioned before. Typically, the way I do it is I'll open them, get them started, and then, like I can't be everywhere, right? Like I have 12 offices. So at that point, for me, it's trying to find just a really great doctor that fits our culture, and we're going to provide them with a great lifestyle and incentivize them to, want to do the same thing we want, which is grow those offices.
Okay, so it's more the culture of your practice that you feel resonates with the community, and then you're finding a doctor who fits that culture. Is that an accurate way of describing that?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, look, you say all orthodontic practices are very similar, but I think we kind of have our own unique culture or vibe or model.
Like
Every office. I mean,
yep.
even like I look at the three of you on this call, like I get like each of you guys has probably brings something different into your communities.
Yeah, I think that's what's so cool about practices is that they're often reflective of the doctor. That's a lesson that I've learned the hard way, both the good and the bad, is that trickles down. One of the things that I learned from your meeting is that it's important to know yourself. It's important to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and then hire around those. So one of the things that struck me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but when I visited your practices, your TCs are very outgoing, very very gregarious, and they really really bond with the patients. And if I recall correctly, you said that was something that maybe you struggled with. You're a little bit more cerebral or just very direct. So you have surrounded yourself by these people who can sort of fill that void so you can focus on what you're good at, and then you have other people focus on what they're good at. With that, I do want to mention Amanda Floyd as part of this conversation, because I know that she's been integral to your growth. And you actually met her at that first location that you started. I think she was like a TC or an assistant at that point, right?
She was a clinical assistant at that point and kind of worked every role, at some point worked every role in the office. And then I eventually, told her, hey, like, I can't pay you anymore, but can you be the office manager, please? Like if we grow, I'll make sure you get, you'll be part of that growth. And we did, and she took it to a whole nother level. Couldn't have done it without her. And now she's got a whole consulting practice where she consults with orthodontists all over the United States and other countries too, and has taken some practices to crazy levels. Every once in a while, she tells me about them, and I get jealous. I said, "Hey, can you come back, please, and help me some more?" And she does. And she still helps at our practices, but she's got a lot going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I was always interested not so much in exactly what you did, but like what went into figuring out how to do it, because we're all different. We all have different communities. And I think that if I try to copy your cookbook precisely, it's probably not going to work identically for me. But just the thought process that led to you evolving in the way that you did, evolving around your community, evolving around your strengths, or evolving around the team that you had. And with that, I remember at that very first Fishbein Fundamentals, that was the inaugural meeting. That was a fun one. We had that little mastermind afterwards where you could just ask any questions. And I was just super fascinated with, how do you create or discover an Amanda Floyd? And do you remember what your answer was to that?
I don't. I mean,
how did you motivate her? How did you incentivize, and how did you structure that?
I know how we did it, but I don't remember how I answered. Listen, the only thing I'll say about Amanda Floyd is she, like, when I met her, I knew right away, like, she had all the attributes to be able to be that person, right? But she wasn't that person. Mm-hmm. Like at that point, like, she was a clinical assistant, but I knew, like, I could see, like, she had leadership, she had respect of the team, she was smart, she knew how to influence people. So, besides, creating a structure that worked for her, I mean, I had her go to, like, me and her, we'd go to, like, the biggest practices, and I'd have her go sit with that office manager, and I'd be like, you hang around that person as long as you can and just, absorb. But what did I say to you at the time? Do you remember? I have no idea.
It was all along those lines, and maybe I've overly romanticized it in my memory, but I pictured you guys in, like, a coffee shop, and you're, like, writing out a bonus structure on the back of a napkin. You're like, if you hit these goals, then this is what we do. And it was, now the way I remember she said it was that it was so ambitious that she had to go home and really sit on it for a while and see, is this something that she can go for? And she decided to go for it. And I think it just took off from there. But yeah, that back of the napkin, I don't know if that's accurate, but that's how I pictured it.
Yeah, so it actually was a back of a napkin. I think we were in a Smoothie King. I don't think it was a coffee shop. But anyway, yeah, it was a back of a napkin type deal, which I honored. We, like, both honored it, so that's good. Yeah. And I think at one point she had written her resignation letter to me as a draft, but never sent it to me because I asked her to do too much. But I think she's glad she never sent that. And yeah, I mean, I had, like, a 5-year goal, and her first year she finished the 5-year goal. I was like, what do we do now? But yeah.
Wow. I think we're all trying to develop our Amanda Floyds here and there, but recognizing that talent and then structuring it. I think that that's an important factor too, is getting the right incentives in place that people are going to take to. Not to go off on too much of a tangent here, but incentives can be a very tricky thing. I think it's the most powerful force in the world. But as many of us know, you bonus or incentivize the wrong way, it can actually be counterproductive. One of the concepts I always come back to is Daniel Pink's book Drive, which I think we're probably all familiar with. But he says that there's basically three main drivers of intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation, and that is autonomy, mastery, and purpose, right? And if you can incentivize for those or create a structure where those are met, people are going to give you their all, because what you're trying to tap into is that intrinsic motivation and not just carrot and stick, which is the extrinsic. And then the interesting caveat here is that if you try to motivate for certain kinds of tasks or certain kinds of projects, specifically creative projects, or things that are a little bit more open-ended as opposed to heuristic, as he calls it, which is just formulaic, you can actually stifle creativity and you can counter the very thing that you're trying to do. The example given is an artist. So an artist often paints or creates for the pure joy of creating. And that's where they tap into their state of flow. That's where they create works of art, masterpieces. But if you were to commission an artist and say, I will give you $1 million if you create the most beautiful painting that you can make, what's odd about that is the painting actually ends up sucking. It comes out too formulaic, or it comes out forced. And that translates to a lot of things in life, especially an open-ended creative task, like I would imagine growing a small practice into larger multiples. So does that factor into your thinking when you're structuring a bonus program? And what advice would you give to people who are trying to incentivize the right way without creating these unwanted side effects?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about my experience with it, and I'd love to hear what you guys do. But what I have found is that everybody treats incentives different. I never want to downplay money, but not everybody is incentivized by that figure. Fortunately for Amanda, like at the time she was motivated by money, and that worked really well. I mean, she also wanted
that's an easy one.
But I mean, there's also love there, right? Like in her heart, like she wanted, I believe, like she wanted to see me succeed, and I wanted to see her succeed. And I'll be on the phone with her later today, right? We still want that, and we still partner on stuff, and we got stuff. I have some people who are just not motivated by money. They want money, but it doesn't affect the way they work. So. And by the way, like we have different incentives for our doctors. Like we don't have a blanket incentive program. We tried that, didn't work. So I guess the advice I would give is bonus for the behaviors you want to see, but also bonus specifically for that person. So, you take those two things into account and you do the best you can. Doesn't always work, but we have very unique bonus structures per person or per department is what I would say.
Now, how does that factor in with your notion of simplicity? You're customizing bonus plans for each individual person. I know you have a very large team. How do you balance the need for simplicity versus the need for customization on an individual level?
Sure, and I think I should clarify. I shouldn't say customization on an individual level, but customization on a per department. It'd be crazy if I had 120 people who are on on all different bonus plans, right? But at the same time, people do that. Like there are doctors who are like, if we hit this goal, everybody gets this bonus. Like why are you giving the lab tech this bonus who had made no, you think that affected her behavior? Do you think that made her get more patients in the door? It didn't affect.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But people do it all the time, and their justification for it is that it helps morale. And listen, you give people more money, it helps morale. That's true. But I don't think you're really affecting their behavior.
An incentive has to lead to the outcome that you want, or it has to incentivize the behaviors that you believe are going to be the lead measures to the lag measure, which is ultimately, probably profitability or growth or whatever you're going after. And if there's not a direct connection between the actions of an employee and that ultimate goal, then you're sort of just pissing into the wind, aren't you? Like you said, like with the lab tech, if they don't have any direct influence over that outcome, it's sort of like they lack a locus of control for that. And the bonus is just, it doesn't really move the needle. It doesn't actually have an effect. I mean, they might think that you're nice and yeah, maybe that increases morale temporarily, but one could also argue that becomes an entitlement, a drug that they get addicted to. And then it's, I mean, that could happen for someone who does have direct control too. I actually want to ask you about that is, do you ever find that people become entitled to these bonuses? And then even when they don't hit their numbers, they're like, well, my rent is budgeted based on getting that bonus because I've hit it every other year. I've hit it every other period. So I know we didn't hit it, but also it was a rough month and, there was a hurricane and people aren't spending money this month. Could you just give it to me anyway? Do you ever run into that and how do you respond?
I mean, for sure, it happens, right? And every situation is different. Sometimes we can do something like, you didn't hit the 100% mark, you hit the 90% mark, so we can give you 90% of it, or 75%, or whatever. Like we can always, we're not going to let.
So there is flexibility there.
We're not going to let anyone go hungry, right? It's like it's a question like, should your TCs be on commission? Right. That's actually like a question I see in these forums, and I hear a lot of people like, oh, your TC should not be on commission. They shouldn't push treatment. Like, I've done it both ways, and I don't know. For us, it's way more effective when our TCs are on commission. I took it off for a while, and then I saw my practice decline. Like, we're not starting treatment on anybody that the doctors don't say we should start treatment on, but at the same time, like,
right.
Our TC salespeople, like I think they are, but I think
follow-up is huge.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I love Neil Kravitz, but I think he says doing that is like is a young man's game or something. I can't remember what he says about that. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? You guys put your TCs on, I assume you guys put your TCs on some kind of bonus plan.
We do. We have we have a bonus for the team, and then I also have a separate bonus for the TC at the end of the year if we hit like this more of like an audacious goal, which again, kind of comes to more of a blanket thing. I found for us, it does help team morale. Like everyone is willing to stay late, help out. Our lab tech is happy to do appliances, and everyone celebrates when we win. But as you said, it may not be the right structure, and it is like a drug. They really want that bonus, and they will work hard, and they don't get it. It's defeating, and I don't like when they come and ask me for it anyway, because we didn't hit it. I don't want to have to talk about this. So I kind of defer to my office manager to deal with that now, which I've learned over the years. Is I want to be the good guy. I mean, I think the pearl I've learned over these years is my conversation with them is almost always positive. I want them to work for me. I want them to choose me over anybody else. All the negative talk comes from my office manager, even though they might know it comes from me. I'm not saying it. I'm not the one saying it. So I found that that's been huge for us. We've had the best morale we've ever had. We've had no turnover for 4 or 5 years. So that's working for us. And we've grown too. But I think a lot of that actually comes down to working with who you guys work with Hip Creative and Neon Canvas, doing some amazing digital marketing outreach. We've had more Google people than ever. So, there's some stuff there. But yeah, back to the whole incentive thing. I do it just for the TCs, and I feel that gets her on the phone more, getting those recalls and things like that. But again, I don't start a patient that's not ready, but I do think that we will do better if she's incentivized to follow up, to really, we tell them if they need treatment or not. It's her job to make them feel good about it.
Yep, exactly. What do you do, Brian?
Well, I've always done some incentives, and I think people are more willing to work hard and invest. Of course, they have to have a sense of purpose, as you mentioned, Andy. So they have to believe in what we're doing. They have to believe that we're doing good work. They have to have some respect for the doctor, for the team, for the benefits of the proposed treatment. So there has to. So it's important to have good integrity. And as Ben mentioned, they're not selling treatments that aren't advocated for, that the doctor's not recommending. But it's just, it's helping somebody make a decision that we believe is good for them, right? So if you can incentivize your TC to think of it that way, hey, I want you to help this person make a decision that's going to be good for them, their dental health or orthodontic health. And if you can do that, then you can earn some extra money. I think that does seem to be very effective. So, but, as has been mentioned here, I think there's always a fine line. We're always having to balance between programs, like here's how it's done, and particulars. Like, so for this person, it has to be done a little differently. Or this person's motivated by X and this person's motivated by Y. So you kind of have to start diving into the particulars but have a broad sort of structure, And so I think that's where it changes from practice to practice. I imagine, Ben, you have all these different practices, and you mentioned there's some customization, there's some individualization, and yet with a big organization, you have to have some structure and you have to have, some backbone there. But I think it's always a dance between, you always have to hold the tension there between what's structured, because that's not very motivating. Like, structure doesn't give people purpose. Structure doesn't inspire people. Let's put it that way. It doesn't inspire people. It's the bare minimum. You have to have structure. What inspires people is going sort of beyond structure. Like, what's important to you? What drives you? Like, do you want to feel like you're successful? Do you want to feel like you're doing a good job? If you have a higher conversion rate, does that like really motivate you? That's a good TC. Like, if they get this inner drive, like, hey, I'm helping these people, and they actually feel purpose, like, these people, I see these problems and they come in with these issues and I see them better after and how their lives are changed, and they really believe it. And then they have a sense of purpose there. And if they also want to do a good job, like they have a personality that they want to please or to excel or to be good at something, I mean, that's just a really good combination for a TC.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're talking about that balance between love, like you were saying, Ben, and then the structure. And it is worth drilling down a little bit into both of those things, but kind of let's talk about that secret sauce that makes Fishbein Orthodontics what it is. So first of all, do you believe you have a secret sauce? And if you do, or define it as something else, what is the DNA of your organization that has allowed it to grow so large? And do you think that this could work for anyone in any set of circumstances? Why or why not?
I mean, I think there's a sauce. I just don't think it's a secret. So I think, there's no secrets in orthodontics. Do I think it could work everywhere? I think it could work to a degree everywhere, right? Like, it might not have the exact same result, might have a better result. I always say if I could go into some areas that had much higher populations. Listen, I'm in Pensacola, Florida. This ain't a huge city, and it's the economics here aren't great either. I mean, I always say, man, I wish I could do what I'm doing now in a bigger population, which we're starting to do with some of our newer offices, and we're seeing some pretty nice results with that. So yeah, I mean, I think some of the things we do work everywhere. And you mentioned earlier, Andy, you were like, I don't know if like your cookbook would, like, if I did that here, it would work. I don't think you would want to use my cookbook. Like, I don't think, you would want my practice, to be honest. Like, everyone's practice is different. Yeah. And like, it's not all about like which one is the most financially successful model. Cause I can tell you most orthodontists don't practice with that being the number one priority. I'd say probably none of us on this call probably practice like that. We practice the way we want to practice, what we think will be financially successful, but also has some lifestyle in there. Like, none of us probably are working 5 or 6 days a week.
Exactly. Yeah.
None of us are working, in the evenings here, I don't think. None of us are working on Saturdays, although my practice is open one Saturday a month, but I'm not working it anymore. So I think like, everybody kind of practices the way they want, and finances is a part of it. In terms of a secret sauce, like I said, it's no secret. I mean, we make the barriers to entry and the obstacles very minimum. Like, there's a line I like, which is whoever makes it easiest wins. And we make it super easy. I mean, you go on our website, you schedule your appointment. Most of our new patients are not even calling us anymore. They go online and schedule. They can schedule any time they want. We have plenty of open spots. I have up to 32 plus new patient appointments available. We don't fill them up every day. Our new patient process is very quick, easy, 30 minutes. You can leave and get your braces on and be out of our office within an hour from the time you came in. So again, it just some things that are, I guess I would call them easy, and maybe to some orthodontists that sounds crazy, but if like the general public, that's like a norm, like, and to us that's a norm. Like, so we don't call, you guys maybe you use the term same day start. Like, we don't use the term same day start because the majority of our starts, 80% plus, are same day. So we call, those are just regular starts, and then we have what we call delayed starts, because that's what's unusual. That's what's unusual for us. And the other piece of it is, I like to think we have a good culture. Our team, I think if you interview them, which we do, are majority very happy. Like they all want more money, like everybody in this world does. We, treat them right. And I guess probably if you ask any orthodontist, they would say that, but we don't let our egos get in the way of that.
That's awesome.
See, now I just want to say something that I think this is an important point. We're always wanting to find the secret sauce. We're always wanting to find the holy grail. We're always wanting to find this key that will unlock, this treasure that we've been seeking. But like, I think you are the secret sauce. Like you are. You're somebody who's intelligent. You can analyze the situation. You're also resilient. So like if obstacles come up, and I'm just from what I observe of you and what I know of you, if obstacles come up, I don't see you as like brooding and like complaining a ton about it. I see you as like accepting it like a realist. So you're a realist. Like, okay, well, this is an issue. Okay, so how do we work around it? And so you have this energy, right? And I think boil it down, talking about simplicity, boil it down to simplicity. What are the attributes that make somebody successful? And then try and develop those attributes. And then maybe do some of the procedures too, because as you mentioned, we all have different personalities. We all have different, personal attributes. So our practices are going to be different. So I think sometimes we go about it the wrong way where we think like, oh, like, tell me your system. Like, how do you structure your day? Like the way you practice, the way I practice is going to be way different based on what motivates us, what gives us energy, how we think, how we interact with people. Mm-hmm. So I just think like, okay, so develop resilience. So when an obstacle comes up, be more like Ben. Like I said, I can imagine you just accept it. Okay, all right, okay, that's an issue. Okay, how are we going to get around it? And then bam, you're solving a problem to get around it rather than just stuck in this, oh man, it's just too hard. Well, shoot, that's like death energy. Mm-hmm. And your practices, I think, succeed because the force behind it, you found Amanda similar in energy, is like life energy. And people tend to congregate around life. People like to go where it's lively. Like if there's a lively party or a dud of a party, people are going to go to the lively party. So if you're bringing energy that's, hey, you know what? We're going to succeed. Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to get this done. We're going to do good work. We're going to treat people well. We're going to, roll with the punches. We're not going to, we're going to work with reality, not in denial of reality. Like things come up and you're not going to stick your head in the sand, but you're also not going to complain about it forever. I think that's the secret sauce. That is the sauce. And the reason that it's dissatisfying to say that is it's hard to develop. And guess what? A lot of it is born. Mm-hmm. You were born that way. And, I think a lot of orthodontists, we share similar attributes. I think a lot of us, you talked earlier, Ben, about trying to strike the balance between ambition, like open up these practices, and balancing time with your family. So I think now we're in our, 40s. I think you graduated in 2012. I think we all graduated in 2013, Andy and Chris and I. So we've all had about the same number of years of practice. I think it's like, it is learning to balance like the ambition of like, because I think if I'm understanding you right, you probably get a lot of energy from starting something new, injecting this life that you have, injecting life into a new thing, a new birth, a new thing. And it's churning, but then probably don't love sticking around and just like babysitting it. And I'm the same way. I just think, that's not exciting. So I think you're using your skills, to start new practices and your, energy and exuberance and stuff to inject new life into these things. And then you find people that vibe with that. And that's the culture. You find people that buy into that. Yeah, I want to be somewhere that's positive. I want to be somewhere where like we're solving problems. We're not just complaining. And when something comes up, we have like a, can-do attitude and we pivot and we're trying to make them better. And we're not, I think people need to start developing, we really need to start developing those skills, more resilience, more confidence, and more ability to pivot in reality rather than just buckling down if something's not working.
I appreciate the kind words. I wouldn't say I'm the secret sauce. I think I play a part, but we got doctors who are producing more than in my practice in their offices than I have. So I'm trying to learn from some of the doctors we've brought on, see what their secret sauce is.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah, that's the great thing.
And I think, we all have a kind of our own secret sauce that makes us who we are. And I love that. I think where a lot of people come to Fishbein Fundamentals and want to learn from you, Ben, is systems, right? Certainly with 120 employees, getting up in the emotion and the possible dynamics that you have between people, there has to be a foundational structure, right? One of my favorite lines in Atomic Habits is how this group from England, I think it was, won this bicycle race by getting 1% more efficient every day. They looked at the type of equipment they were using on their bikes. They were looking at wind resistance. They were looking at these little 1%s where when you added it up, they won the race like hours ahead of the next person. It was this tremendous difference. And I kind of look at your practice like that. Like you must have these dialed in systems. And of course, there's some variability there, but there's got to be a foundation or a fundamental, if you will, that we can all embrace that would make us 1% better every day. So what are some of those things like someone would take away from your course, like a pearl that people can implement on their practice Monday to kind of get some sort of foundation toward having efficient systems?
I put efficiency and simple in the same, line, because I think if you can keep your systems simple, they can be more efficient. You can scale them more. So I would say, some of our systems is like our new patient process, very, very quick. Our same day start process, or just regular start process, I should just call it, very quick. And I'll kind of mention, one of the ways we make it a little bit quicker is we use pre-pasted brackets. We use them from Solventum. We use all their products. And when we do that, it's not like the assistants have to go find all the brackets. They're able to use, everything's already set up for them. And we have less than 4% emergency rate or bond failure in our office, which is lower than the national average. And for us, we're a very large practice. So to have that low of an emergency rate or bond failure rate, we're very proud of. In terms of some other systems, I mean, like we're an open book. You mentioned you come to fundamentals. Like we actually, like during that course, we are open. So you actually see how we practice. And we don't practice any different. People think, oh, you're just putting on a show today. Like, we do this the same. We do it the same every day. I sometimes don't even know when
Although, to be fair, Ben, you were practicing on a Saturday when I came by. So there was maybe something a little bit different.
Maybe it was on a Saturday. You would probably know better than me. But yeah, I mean, we're an open book in terms of systems, and I don't know what specifically to share, but I mean, I think as a general rule, it's like, how simple can we make this?
Do you see a common mistake that practices are making where they start to plummet if they're trying to get to this next level? I certainly work with a lot of practices, and Amanda has too. What would be the difference between a practice that succeeds like yours and one that, do you see a consistent mistake where they tend to not grow?
I mean, I think if you asked Amanda that question with all of her clients, she'd give you like a one-word answer, which would be mindset. And I understand that's like super vague, but I mean, that's it. I mean, people with an open mindset are willing to try new things, or you're going to see them succeed. Even the people who come to visit us, like you have some people who like they come like, oh, you know what, we're gonna try this. Like we're at least gonna try some of these things, and we say, listen, don't do everything we do. Like you don't want to be us. Like you don't, like people do not want our type of practice. Some people do. They want exactly that, and I don't recommend it. But then you have some people who come in and they say, nah, this just wouldn't work in my area. I'm not going to do this. I mean, sure. And that's fair. Like I do think there's maybe some truth to it where like different areas, like different, results. But I think just having a mindset that's open and willing, especially if the orthodontist is hungry, man, those are some really successful orthodontists. I mean, there's some that come to my mind, and like some guys who are opening practices and doing numbers you would not believe. You would not believe.
I think we talk about that in Pearls all the time, where you should attend Fishbein fundamentals and you take what works for you and then kind of throw the other one back in the ocean, right? And so that's kind of the whole idea. Like there's all these ideas, but have you found that maybe there's one consistent Pearl that really does kind of work for everyone, systems wise? Something that you found that maybe, or even Amanda's work with, like, hey, this is the one that every time I mention it is awesome, and it really helps them kind of elevate their practice a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, I would just say like patients, like listen, like try to boil it down to the simplest things. Do provide the best patient experience, and what do patients want? And I'll tell you one thing they don't want is to be in your office for a long time. So like you think you're providing like really great service by providing a really long new patient consult, going over every detail of the CBCT, giving them the office tour, doing all that. Like, do they want that? I don't think so. right? So that's why we have a very short new patient consult. And the reason why, I think one of the reasons why we have such a high start percentage on that same day is because of the timing, So because we can get them in and out in under an hour and they leave with braces versus your consult takes a whole hour. The chance of them having another hour in their day is probably low. Right. So we on the front end are telling them like, look, you're going to be able to leave with starting treatment if the orthodontist recommends it and you're a candidate for orthodontic treatment. And typically they do that. They're prepared. We don't keep them in the office a long time. We don't give them things that they're not asking for. They don't want. There's not a lot of, fluff. There's not a lot of fluff.
Fluff, sure. Now, have you always done 30-minute consults? So, like we're at an hour and my TC, of course, insists on the hour for, just nurturing the patient and records and whatever. Have you always done that, or did you start to kind of scale to 45 minutes, then 30? And how did you have any kickback from your TCs when you did that?
Tons of kickback. We started off at 90 minutes. Which we literally had, I don't know if you guys have this is crazy. I'm even saying it. We had like a skeleton in our office and we'd actually bring, show where the palate is and stuff like that. We don't do that anymore, obviously. We'd have a book, a binder showing them the before and after cases. We obviously don't do any of that. Yeah. So then from 90 to 60 to 45 to 30. I mean, look, I remember I had a orthodontist come in and they saw how quick our consult was and they were like in shock. And I was like, you could do this. And they actually got a little emotional and they're like, but I just love going in there and talking with the patient. And it's like my favorite part of the day. And I just said, you know what, keep doing that. It's working for you. It's what makes you happy. You don't have to do it this way. For me, I'm good at a 2 to 3 minute conversation. That's my wheelhouse. And then after that, I kind of, maybe it's my ADD or something, but that's what works for us. I do think patients want to meet the doctor on the new patient appointment, but I don't think they necessarily want to talk to us for 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the last thing I'll ask is, at the Pearls Conference, which you've spoken at multiple times, what always comes back to me is your definition of success. Like when you started, you said it was kind of, production-based and growth. And then over the years now, as your kids are getting older, that's kind of shifted now. And, could you share with us what you might have shared at the conference about kind of more of a balanced approach to how you define success now?
Chris, I love that you remembered that. I love that you remembered that slide. And, I'll give while you're asking me that question, I'll say how much I enjoyed the Pearls Conference. It is and I think it's exactly like what the name of your group is, Orthodontic Pearls, because you leave with pearls that you can I left with pearls that I went and I implemented on Monday. I also met a ton of great people there, tons of networking, fantastic event, by the way. And cool that you had it in awesome. So the last one I was, walking by in Cape Canaveral. That was pretty fun. But, in terms of success, listen, I remember, and it's maybe because I'm older now, but me and the group of orthodontists I was in, it's oh, how many offices do you have? How much production are you doing? And that's, the most important thing. And now it's where are you taking your kids on vacation and how much time you get to spend with your kids? And, to me, it 10 years ago, a good day was, oh my God, I had 9 same day starts. And, today a good day is oh, I got to go bike riding with my daughter. So, I still want to do well in the practice. Your priorities change a little bit.
What if your orthodontic systems work together instead of separately? At Solventum, we're helping practices move beyond individual products and toward a complete orthodontic solution. From Clarity aligners and Clarity precision grip attachments to Clarity digital bonding, Clarity retainers, and Clarity portal, our solutions are designed to work together to help streamline workflows, improve efficiency, and support predictable outcomes. Whether you're treating a clear aligner patient, planning a digital bonding case, or managing retention, Solventum provides connected technologies that help support your clinical goals while simplifying the day-to-day demands of running a practice. Because orthodontics isn't just about individual products. It's about having the right partner and the right ecosystem to help your practice move forward with confidence. Discover how a complete orthodontic solution can help drive efficiency, consistency, and better patient experiences. Visit Solventum Orthodontic Solutions.
Ben, I want to ask you a little bit. You obviously you mentioned mindset as if there was one thing that you could get people to wrap their heads around. That one, secret sauce. Open-mindedness, I think, was important. You said you don't want to copy exactly what you're doing, but you want to be open-minded about it. And like I mentioned before, I described that as how did he evolve his systems as opposed to what exactly are his systems? I don't want your cookbook, but I want to understand, how did you see the world? How did you see things? And recognize the opportunities that worked for you and develop both yourself and your team within that framework. So on this idea of not thinking like everyone else, being open-minded, we had a discussion a little while ago, and I think some of our friends have the same mindset here, but there's this idea that orthodontists are overpaid, which I think is going to ruffle some feathers here. And I want you to explain, what did you mean by that? Or what is that? Do you mean to say that we should be getting paid less, that we should be giving part of our paycheck back? Or is it more of a mindset thing with some other ramifications? So explain that concept to me. Why are orthodontists overpaid?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say that in front of all these orthodontists, but I mean, I just think, it's interesting, right? Because I see the posts on the forums, and there's a lot of complaints that, oh my God, we're charging too little, like, my pay hasn't gone up, stuff like that. And I just think relative to the work we do and the liability we have and the hours we have, like, it's pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good. I mean, I look at, like even my brother who my little brother joined my practice, and he's 5 years ago, and no ownership responsibilities, leaves every day at 3:30, goes home, never works a Friday, Saturday. And look at what he's getting paid, and and all of our doctors, and even me. And I just think we got it. I think we got it pretty good. That's all. I'm just grateful for being in this profession.
So is it more of a gratitude thing than like, oh, you should, like when you're negotiating with your brother or something, like, oh, look how much I'm paying you, I probably should be giving you half of that? Wow. And is it more just like, hey, we're blessed, and we, for all the complaining, all the stuff that we have to put up with, just remember, at the end of the day, we're not heart surgeons, and we make probably more than the average heart surgeon.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? I mean, yeah, I just think we're, one thing I've learned to practice is gratitude, and it's helped me in a lot of ways. And man, like, sometimes you got a lot of orthodontists looking, with the glass half empty, but oh my gosh, like, we got it good. He got it really good.
Well, we're critical people. We're dealing in those millimeters. We're dealing with things that, I mean, I'm always surprised. Like, I pride myself on my perfectionism, and I think that I have some patients who are drawn to that. Maybe some of those patients are not the ones that I wanted in my practice, but I actually I tell my team this. It's not the perfectionists that drive me crazy. It's the ones who have unreasonable demands. They're the ones that are... Yes. Like the goalposts keep shifting, or they don't really know what they want. It's just not this, those are the ones who, or nothing I do is ever good enough. It's like, you need to spend more time at the chair, or, whatever it is. Perfectionism itself doesn't bother me. And I think that part of that perfectionism is training ourselves to look for those minuscule faults, to look for what's wrong. And, certainly you're an ambitious guy. I think most people who make it as far as we are fairly ambitious. And we don't stop at good enough. That's a common thread of anyone who I've recognized as successful, is you don't rest on your laurels. It's good enough is not good enough. Now, the liability with that is you could end up chasing a goal that doesn't exist. So if your sense of worth, if your sense of happiness, if you believe that happiness is in this destination that keeps getting moved out, that's a bad place to be, because you're never going to catch up with that. So I think that there's this tension between not being satisfied, not getting too comfortable, but also recognizing that our self-worth and our satisfaction, our ultimate happiness, is not in some endpoint that is reached. Now, I think that a lot of people would look at you and say, well, he surpassed that endpoint years ago, but he's still going. What advice would you have? How has your perspective changed now that you've reached a certain level of success? And what would you say to someone who might be falling into that trap of it's never going to be enough, and you keep delaying your happiness, keep thinking I'll be worth it only if I can get that next practice or double my net worth? What would you say to that person from your perspective now?
Gratitude, right? Like, and you have to practice it. And, I went through a period during my orthodontic career where I was very unhappy. I had plenty of money, but I was not happy. And that was one of the things that got me through was gratitude. I think, I think I had dinner with John Pham. He started Embrace, and he sent me a book. And in the book, I had to write down 3 things I was grateful for every day. I'm like, stupid book. And I did it, and it helped me a ton. I mean, because look, you'll have a goal, right? Like I had a goal, right? Like we've all had, like we all had a goal to become an orthodontist. Right? We did that, and then we had another goal, and we had another. Like it never stops, right? Like I'm opening 2 more practices. One next couple months, one quarter 1 of next year, and or quarter 3. But it never stops. So just like my wife tells me, stop and smell the roses. Just try to focus on the present and be grateful. I don't know if you guys have any tricks with that.
Oh, I'm still figuring it out. Brian, I know that we talk about this a lot.
We all are.
Yeah.
We all are. But I think, we're lucky that we've reached a point in our careers where we have enough stability now. We have enough experience, financially. We have enough where we can be more contemplative, and we can actually think about, why is it that I wanted to grow this empire? Why? And you can answer it with your left brain. Well, I needed money. But there was something else behind that. It's not just money. Again, we've talked about incentives. It's not just the money that motivates. There was something else underneath that. And what is that? Is it a need for relevance? Is it that we're not happy if we're still? We somehow can't stand not being productive.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to start asking those questions and say, well, what is it that's really motivated me? Because I can answer all of these things logically that would satisfy, the average person. But if you go a little deeper, but it wasn't just money, because something else was pushing. That again, wouldn't accept defeat, wouldn't accept failure. If failures happened, we were going to pivot. If this came up, we were going to find a solution. Where you're just not going to accept failure. And I think it's a really wonderful journey to start, understanding yourself. In Greece, they had the oracle at Delphi, which was, this sage person that supposedly spoke for, the god Apollo. And above, you'd enter this temple, and above this temple, it said, know thyself. And I think that's what we're supposed to be doing every day of our lives. And it is a journey like, why am I restless? Why do I need to start this next practice? Why do I need to make more money? I've got enough money. What is it that's pushing me, that's driving me? What is it that's agitating me? And I think the key is to start recognizing what's agitating us and what's maybe an ego driven thing, and learn to transform that into a purpose thing that's part of the greater whole. Like, okay, you know what? Now when I'm practicing orthodontics, I'm trying to talk to kids about, hey, when you wear your rubber bands, you're not going to be perfect, but aim high. Like I'm trying to teach a life lesson. Aim high, keep your standard high. Try and go as close to 24 hours as possible. And you might have a bad day, but don't lower your standard, because we all have this tendency to think, oh, I did so good for the first 2 weeks, and then I screwed up, and then I just knew it. Well, this is the real me. The real me is the one that can't do it.
You identify with your failure. Yeah.
So I'll lower my standard to, I can at least do every night. So you lower the standard so you can be quote unquote successful. But no, don't lower your standard and be successful. Fail at being perfect because you won't be perfect. You can't, but aim for that. And if you keep aiming for that, you're going to end up way closer to perfect, ideal than if you lowered your standard and you're perfect at a lower standard. My point is, now it's like, okay, well, now practicing orthodontics for me, of course, it's still about money. I still like having money. I still like taking nice vacations or having, quote unquote, nice things or being comfortable enough. But it's about more than that, because, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you satisfied enough things. It's like, well, a greater purpose for me now is like, what is life all about? What am I all about? What have I been doing all these years? Am I even aware? And trying to figure that out. And okay, now I want to actually use my practice, not just to get kids to have a class 1 occlusion, wear your elastics, you're going to get a class 1, No, wear your elastics, because if you can learn how to be disciplined right now and do things that you don't want to do in the moment, but your greater purpose is, I want good health. Okay, so attach yourself to a bigger purpose that's not a momentary purpose. Well, I don't want to wear elastics. In that moment, it's like I tell them, there are plenty of times, like, now I'm in my 40s. There are plenty of times I don't want to work out. I don't want to in the moment. But the greater part of me wants to be healthy. So what do? I don't care about what I want in the moment. I attach myself to what I want in the greater purpose. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we're lucky that we have the privilege of being able to contemplate these things because we've been taken care of enough. And we live in a time where we have so much abundance. I mean, we live like kings. We have clean water. We have great health care. Our lifespan's way better. And of course, with all this, I think, ironically, it is the abundance, and it is the comfort, and it is the lack of needing to solve a problem every day. Like, I need food, like a major problem. Like, if I don't get food, I'm going to die. I need to get clean water today. Like, we don't have these like urgent problems. And so we're just lackluster, and we're not connected with nature. So we're just depressed. I think, it's having this purpose, and it's having something that's like, because we don't have these urgent needs for food or shelter or whatever, we need a bigger thing. I want to make a difference in someone's life today. And the vehicle I'm doing it with is orthodontics. I'm an orthodontist. That's what I am. That's what I do. But I don't just want to straighten their teeth. That's nice. It's nice. And hey, it's a great smile. Hey, it impacts your life. But if I can at least pass something on, something that might help them in some other way, anyway, I just think we're really lucky to be able to do that at this point in our lives, and to think about why have I done the things that I've done, and try to not that it's bad, because hey, it got you here. It's not bad. It's not good or bad, but understanding it, then you can start tweaking the why. Why am I doing it? And you can start because if you're satisfied here, hey, you know what? I'm enough. I'm enough. Whether I succeeded or failed, whether I have 10 practices or one, I'm enough. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm fine. Whether you like me or don't like me, I'm fine. Well, I think, does it really, like, in the grand scheme of things, is it even accurate? No. Is what you think accurate? No. There's so many different perspectives to take. So I just think, man, we're blessed, we're lucky, and know thyself is a good thing to always think about.
I love that, Brian. I think I learned a lot from you in trying to embrace the moment more. I think for me, as I've learned going into my 40s now, is that I'm happiest when I have a balanced life. I feel in dental school, we were out of balance. When we started a practice, we were out of balance. When we had kids, young-born, Randy's going through that now, you're out of balance. I feel like when you can have time with friends, when you can have time to work on your practice, when you can have time to work out, when you have time for your faith, when you have time for hobbies, and there's a good amount of balance between those things, that's where I found I was the most happy. And so I went from 4 days to 3 days, but I don't want to quit orthodontics. Like, I love going to work. I love seeing my patients. I love being a part of their life. But if I did orthodontics 6-7 days a week like I used to, I would be miserable. If I worked out all day, every day, I would tear a bicep. If I just meditated all the time, I wouldn't get anything done. And if I didn't spend time with my wife, we wouldn't be together. So I think, really, I've looked at auditing my life over the last couple of years pretty hard. Like, where am I wasting time? Where am I most happy? Where am I out of balance? I need schedule more guys trips. I need to, tell my wife I love her every night. We need to spend more date nights. We try to do a date night every week. And then, of course, practice growth, all that really does fit in, but don't focus 100% on your practice growth at the expense of your health, at the expense of your friends, at the expense of your family, and really look at where you're spending your time and try to get those things a little bit toward the center. So you're more balanced amongst those 5-6 things that truly drive happiness, but no excess of any one. Even if you love it, like if I play guitar all day, I hate the dang thing. Like when I have to prepare for a gig, I'm exhausted. But when I get to play, a few times a year, it really scratches that itch, right? So I think we all, an abundance of a good thing's a bad thing. And not enough balance is also not a good thing. So try to shoot for that balance in life. At least that's what I'm starting to discover in my 40s as being of paramount importance.
Great discussion, guys. Filling your buckets, as you always say, Chris. Making room for those things that are most important, and eliminating those things which are not. Well, Ben, I don't want to finish this discussion without talking about the elephant in the room here, which is OSOs. I know that you are a proponent of this. You have some thoughts on it. But you made the decision a few years back to partner with SmileDocs. And first of all, I want to ask you, why was this the right decision for you? And what should doctors be mindful of if they're facing a similar decision?
Well, I mean, I think it's an individual decision for everybody. I've never, pushed anyone into doing it or honestly to not doing it. And I get calls all the time. I mean, and the only thing I can speak of on it is my experience with it, right? Because I'm on year 6 of it now and maybe going on year 7. And I can tell you it's been positive. I mean, you talk about a balance, Chris, like now my life is balanced to a degree, as I say, I'm opening more offices and doing other stuff. But before Smile Doctors, it was not, right? Now, listen, obviously there's a financial component to it, right? Like I never want to try to downgrade, how important it is to, make sure you're making enough money with a deal. But, a lot of it, I can tell you that my lifestyle is better now than prior to joining. And I just say it. There's a lot of hate online about OSOs in general. I mean, I think there was an article that came out, which I thought was silly. Like it was just talking about refinancing debt, which is something we all do. And I mean, I just saw like a lot of people, and I get part of it, but they're like salivating over it, like, oh my gosh, like so happy for what they think is failure, even though I think I mean, Smile Doctors, I think, is doing quite well. And man, I just don't get it. And I'll see a lot of people say like they have really good doctors, but this and that. I'm like, well, like who do you think Smile Doctors is? Like we're all like, I'm an equity owner. Like all the doctors, most of them are equity owners. Mm-hmm. So when you say that, I mean, you're sort of attacking all of us. And listen, I can take it. Like it doesn't hurt my feelings, but I think it's I don't really know what to call it, but like misplaced hatred. I think maybe from maybe not fully understanding or feeling threatened or thinking like for whatever reason like it's hurting the orthodontic profession. I don't see any of that. Like maybe you listen. I like everyone's got their perspective. I just don't see that. I don't know how you guys feel about OSOs.
Well, we've discussed this from multiple perspectives on the show. We've had representatives from OSOs on the show. We've also had, some people, including Nate Williams, who is he literally has a podcast, Say No to the DSO. So, we do try to bring a balanced perspective, and I think that we've explored our own situations here enough to anyone can go back and listen to those episodes if they want to hear our personal thoughts on it. I think that there's a couple of points that I want to expound upon that you just brought up. Now, first of all, that article about refinancing debt. I think Kyle Fagala broke this down really well in Digital Orthodontist. And I think that certainly there were a number of OSOs who were distressed. And it wasn't so much a refinancing as like a takeover or, giving the equity back to the bank. There were a few OSOs that fell into that category. SmileDocs in particular was one that was doing well. And the way it was framed is that refinancing of debt is similar to how if we have good credit and the interest rates are lowered, then we're going to refinance our mortgage. That's actually a good thing. And it's a indicator of strength. But as many people understand, not every OSO is created equally. And certainly there are some out there that there's some who have been accused of actual fraud, who are being sued by their previous owner doctors who had shares diluted or all kinds of, funny business. So I think that for one thing, it is important not to lump every OSO, every DSO into that same category, just like orthodontic practices. There are some good practice owners, there's some bad practice owners. And which one makes the most sense for you is a personal decision, as you said, but definitely do due diligence because there are some bad eggs out there, just like in any other business transaction. So wanted to clear that part up. And then, you're talking about misplaced hate and whether this is someone's feeling threatened or this is something that is bad for the profession. And I think that some of the pushback there comes from medical, obviously. Medicine is years ahead of us. And I think that a lot of people would consider what private equity has done to medicine, especially the practice of medicine, has been negative for at least those who would have otherwise found themselves in private practice. Generally, I think that private equity can sometimes identify efficiencies, but more often those efficiencies come from severe cost cutting, or cost cutting on the side of, say, supplies or payroll, or quicker appointments, things of that nature, but then bloating the administrative fees on top of that. Like we do see that in hospitals. Hospital administration is sucking up a huge portion of the revenue in a hospital, whereas that otherwise would have gone to the doctors or what have you. I think autonomy is another thing that always comes up. And again, this is going to be specific to the company. But I don't know if you had a lot of corporate dentistry in Pensacola when you first started out. I know where Chris and I practiced, it was rampant. I mean, every job was a corporate job. And it wasn't the OSOs that are out there today. It wasn't like Smile Docs OSOs. These are true corporations. They're not doctor owned, or the doctor is just like a pawn that gets plugged in just to get around the licensing restriction. So working in those places, I can definitely see that yes, you have doctor autonomy, but there are levers that they can pull to leverage you into doing what they want. I know my job has been threatened, maybe not directly, but indirectly, or hours have been cut if I didn't do what they wanted to. For example, and I was once approached, not just once, multiple occasions approached by office managers who made me justify why I didn't want to start braces on a 7-year-old. And I said, there's just no indications for treatment here. And they said, well, are you saying they couldn't benefit from an expander? This is someone without a dental license. This is an administrator who's having this discussion.
It's wild.
With me.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And while I said I stuck to my guns, but then wouldn't you know it, half my shifts got given to someone else who was willing to start every 7-year-old who came in. So it's like, okay, yeah, you have to find it. The argument is always there has to be a doctor making that decision, but you get enough hungry people out there with $1 million in debt, and they're not making money at that point. Like on an associate income, most of them are not living a lifestyle with $1 million of student debt at 8% plus, an associate income. So they're desperate, and you can't go underwater budgeting wise. Anyway, suffice to say, I think that it's overly simplistic to go back to, well, it's a doctor making that decision and they have full autonomy because it's illegal to be coerced into providing treatment. This is some of the pushback that I would say exists out there. And in my opinion, having lived through that, some of that is valid. But again, it's really important to understand that not every corporation is the same. I've worked for different corporations, and some of them were far more ethical than others. What would you say to those areas of pushback?
Listen, the only thing I can speak is from my experience with it. And no one has ever pushed me to start a case I didn't want to start, not even suggested it. No one has ever pushed one of our doctors to start a case that they didn't want to start or even suggested it. I haven't even pushed our other doctors to start cases, even if I think they should. I'm like, all right, that's their call. And then in terms of, the financial piece, I mean, the only thing I would say is our team members and our doctors are getting paid more than when I owned 100% of it. So, I mean, and they're, to be honest, like our team members, like their ceiling just got a whole lot higher. I mean, I only had so many positions in the office. Now, we have, some team members who make, over 100K. And I had Amanda, but, so wow. Andy, that sounds like a crazy, I couldn't imagine being in that spot. And I guess if I had that experience, I would probably hate OSOs too. I haven't seen that with Smile Doctors.
I think that's fair. And I think that that's an important piece here, is that we all can only speak from our own experience. I've never worked for Smile Doctors. You've never worked for the corporations that I've seen. But I think that there should be room for discussion here and room for that nuance and understanding, appreciating each person's perspective and recognizing that maybe it's not that a claim or an idea should just be dismissed outright because I don't have that life experience. But having a face-to-face discussion like we're having right now, not online, not in the Facebook forums. I mean, It sounds ironic for me to say that, considering that we run, these Facebook groups. But that can create such a toxic environment where it's about who's right and who's wrong. And when it's in writing, it just comes out differently than when you're face to face. But there's nuance in these discussions. And I think that even from a Smile Doc's perspective, there should be an appreciation and a respect for the fact that that is a trajectory that other OSOs or other DSOs have fallen into. And it's important to be mindful of that and create guardrails so that they don't fall into that same thing. Because I would argue that if it's happened before, it could be a path of least resistance for a largely administrative run company. And I've said this on the podcast before, but I think that the less influence that doctors have over the decision making, the more just profit has over that decision making. And there is a difference there. We've spent this podcast talking about our own priorities and the joy that we get from treating patients, or the ethics involved with treating a child as we would treat our own child. And when you have a company run by people who are just incentivized by profit, that doesn't have to happen. But certainly we should be mindful of the guardrails necessary to prevent that decay into that sort of organization. Would you agree with that?
I think that some people have the perception, like they see private equity and they just think that means like money, like profit. And, I think really it's not too much different than at least I thought when I owned 100% of my practice, which is, I know if I do all the things right, I take really good care of my patients, I take care of my team, I take care of my community, that the profits will follow. Mm-hmm. So I think, to a degree, like everyone's looking at profit, I think, if we as private owners weren't looking at profit, we'd probably be poor business owners. Mm-hmm. But I think looking at that, with that, being the goal for shareholders, which they have a duty to their shareholders, doesn't mean poor patient care.
Right.
So Andy, I want to add something here that I think, as I look at it, Andy, you mentioned the word decay. Like how can you prevent decaying from an institution, a corporate organization? It's now an institution. It's not just a single practice. An institution that has purpose. Ben, to your point, you want to provide great service. You actually value improving the community you're in. So you got values. So it's not just profit, but profit is attached to values. And I would say the value of contributing, adding value maybe is the number one. And then there's the belief that that's tied to profits. So I think the concern for the decay, here's how I see it. The less personally invested, and I don't mean financially invested, I mean personally invested with time and passion and values shareholders are, the more it does decay into just about money. It's like, for example, I'm invested in this fund where we own some apartment complexes and some different things. Yeah. I've never been there. I don't even know what they look like. I don't know any of the tenants. And it's like, hey, I want money out of this thing. And I don't, and so it's like, this person's behind on rent and they think in 6 months or in 2 years, they'll be able to catch up. And it's like, as shareholders, I don't know anybody's name. Of course, I'm not asking, I don't know none of the situations ever come to me. But what I'm saying is,
you're not even aware
the mindset,
they don't.
I'm not even aware of, but the mindset is, I just want money. The only reason I put money into this fund is to get money. Right. So there's no personal investment at all. And there's maybe a sense of purpose. Well, we're making the community better. We're fixing up these apartments, and they're going to be, better quality for the community. And
but if you have $100,000, you're not saying where can I create a community? You're thinking, how can I grow this to 200,000?
Right, and you're thinking, well, I'm fine to wait for like another 2 or 3 years, just to make the community better.
It's impersonal.
I just want my money. So what I'm saying is, as long as there's shareholders that are personally attached to the value that drives the profit, that's sustainable. And then it's not purely profit driven, but it is, of course, producing profits, which is the whole reason that a business exists. But the more impersonal it becomes, the more administrative people, and then the more shareholders you have that are detached. Like, hey, I'm only in this financially. I don't care what goes on in your practices. I just want a return.
Right.
Then there's that decay. There's the decay into, well, less autonomy, pushing treatment that shouldn't be done. So I think the guardrails are people have to be personally invested, and there has to be a sense of ethics and integrity that is foremost. And there's a belief that profits are attached to that, and that somehow, if you but that the issue though is that requires some patience, because it's like, hey, no, we got to double down on the values, because we believe if we keep doubling down on the values, the profits will come eventually. So even if there's a bump, so as a practice owner, individual practice owner, if you have a down month, you're not totally freaking out, and then, well, next month we got to push everything possible. Yeah. You're just saying, hey, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep taking care of people, and we just believe that it'll even out, because it does, because you have the flexibility of like, hey, I'm in this for the long haul. But as soon as you're in it for like, hey, I'm in this for a 3-year period, and I want my return in 3 years, and I'm not personally invested, there's the decay. Cool. So that the safeguard is get people who are attached to the values.
Well, I think that, our practices as individuals, our identity is tied to this practice too. Like I think that profit, as Ben said, profit is important for everyone. I would not do this for free, and I want to make as much as I can, but within the bounds of, I have to face my community too. I have to go grocery shopping in this place, and my name is on the door, and my identity is tied up in this. So there are lines that I will not cross. Whereas if I'm an investor, I'm not thinking about what lines they're crossing as much. I don't know, like how many of us have really done the due diligence on our entire stock portfolio on an index fund? Do we know that every company that's in there is an ethical company, and are we aware of how they're treating their employees? And no, we're just like, we tell our financial managers, I just want the best return that you can get. And I think that's kind of what we're alluding to, is that the more of those types of people you have in the pie, driving the incentives, it does become more about just money. And again, now that Smile Docs is not in that, I'm not accusing Smile Docs.
It doesn't have to.
But I'm saying that, and in general, the more that a company leans towards those passive investors, those disconnected investors just seeking that return, naturally, the more they're going to be beholden to that return at the expense of other things. So,
Andy, I'll say this. Listen, my name's still in the practice. It's still my identity, even though I sold. And one of the nice, I think, neat things about Smile Doctors is, most of the deals are what's called JV deals, where the doctor still, has ownership in it. And
I've heard of these. That's an interesting play.
Yeah, I think that's positive, because I think it keeps the doctor engaged and still caring. And the other thing I'll say is, I've never seen an ethical doctor sell to an OSO and then become unethical. Right? It doesn't change their ethics. Listen, I've seen an unethical doctor sell and still be unethical, and I've seen ethical doctors sell and stay ethical. But look, there's the other thing I see, because I talked to a lot of orthodontists, and a lot of orthodontists that have joined OSOs, is a lot of orthodontists, they really, I get it, they don't like OSOs. They'll say something until they join one. And, to be honest, like, I know a little bit about your guys' practices, and you guys have, really good practices. It's going to be very, very difficult for a new graduate to buy one of your practices one day. Mm-hmm. So, and not just you guys, I know so many people with great practices, like, I don't know how a doctor coming out of school with $1 million of debt is going to go and buy a multi-million-dollar practice.
Yeah.
So
certainly food for thought. And I think that this is an evolving situation, and I'll tell you, in the spirit of open-mindedness, I am still open-minded. I have not made my decision up one way or another. All I can say is that for the time being, I feel comfortable going the route that I have, and I'm keeping a close eye on all of this stuff. And these are the kinds of discussions that we need to be having. So I appreciate your time here, Ben. This has been awesome.
Appreciate it.
I just want to add one thing about that. I think it's short-sighted to say that like OSOs or DSOs is corporatized healthcare is either good or bad. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, think of pharmacies. Most of them, would have been mom and pop shops, original pharmacies. But where do you get your prescriptions?
Yeah,
probably Walgreens, CVS.
Yeah. I want to drive
through. Like there is good that comes with institutionalization and corporatization, because it's more convenient. They're open later hours. They're willing to do things that the individual mom and pop store aren't, and they build efficiencies into it. Why? Because they've got a huge size, and if you're not efficient, you don't make money. So you have to be efficient as an institution. So there is good that comes with this stuff. And I think to just say, oh, they're all bad, it's just silly, honestly. But I think it's good to say, well, what are the negatives that come with it? Well, okay, so there's some negatives. How do we be aware of that? What are the positives? Okay, well, there's some positives. I mean, the DSOs are probably doing sterilization way better than the individual practices in terms of being compliant with like the spore tests and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, they're probably being way better than an individual practice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it's like there's good and bad, and I think you just have to try and be aware of both.
Great points there, Brian. Again, Ben, I want to thank you for taking your Saturday here to be with us and chatting about your experience. It's been super fun, and I think my call to action for everyone out there has got to be have more of these in-person discussions, and I think that's the value of these in-person meetings more than anything else. I've always said this: it's those discussions around the lectures that really matter and where you really, really learn something. And I feel privileged, Ben, to have been able to share some of those late nights with you, and I look forward to continue that into the future. Chris and Brian, I see you guys all the time too, probably too much of you guys. So, but anyway, no, I'm just looking forward to seeing you guys in just next month. You guys are all coming down here for the baseball game. I'm excited for that. If you are a vendor in the space and you would like to get your message out to over 10,000 now, Chris, are we up at 10,000 now for the forum?
Just about. I think we're about 97, 9,800, something like that.
All right, we need to get a few more members so I can get a better soundbite here. So just under 10,000 orthodontists from across the globe. Reach out to us at orthodonticpearls@gmail.com, and we can provide you with a sponsorship menu and options for the Facebook forum, the meeting, podcast. Start as low as $100. So you're not going to find a better deal than that. We want to also thank our sponsor for this show, Solventum. Any last minute comments on Solventum, Ben, or how can they get in touch if anyone wants to hear more about their products?
Reach out to their Solventum rep. They're happy to help put you in touch with them if you don't know who they are.
Awesome. And then how can people get in touch with you? Just Facebook, email, maybe?
Facebook, email. I don't know if you can share it on your posting of this, but yeah, pretty easy to. I'm pretty accessible.
Sounds great, guys. We will see you all in the next one.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Designed to blend naturally with patients' teeth, Clarity Advanced Brackets deliver the aesthetics today's patients want while providing the control and reliability clinicians need. Their advanced ceramic material offers strength and stain resistance, helping brackets maintain their appearance throughout treatment. The result? A treatment option that helps patients feel confident in their smile journey while giving doctors the performance they're looking for from start to finish. Because when aesthetics and performance work together, everyone wins. Learn how Clarity Advanced Ceramic Brackets can help deliver exceptional aesthetics without compromising clinical performance. Visit Solventum Orthodontic Solutions to learn more.